Hello guys and welcome for another Eternum video. Today I will share with you the most powerful AoE damage build for PvP, which will blow your opponents completely, but be careful as this one is not so extreme when it comes to the defensive side of it. Without wasting too much of your time, let's jump straight ahead and take a closer look at this amazing AoE build for Season 8 and the reason why this is probably the only valuable build for all the Fire Staff users out there when it comes to a big scale fight such as OPRs and wars. For those of you who don't know, for the last year or even close to 2 years now, there were a few weapons running crazy on the battlefield when it comes to PvP. For the frontline melee players, this was always the case with Sword and Shield, as it was used in all kinds of setup for crowd control, gap closer and overall nice pressure on the enemy. For the range and mainly the DPS focus, this was always the Fire Staff, as the nature of the weapon was just a huge AoE damage on short to middle range. Over the time, a third contender entered the scene and actually shifted the things a little bit towards the melee. This was the Void Gauntlet and more specifically one of the abilities of the gauntlet called Void Blade. Overall we had a pretty boring, stale and never changing meta for the last months, and everyone was literally playing the same medium or heavy gear in the front line with a little bit of spice fire damage users on the backline. In this season, due to a couple of new perks, the survivability of all melee players and their overall pressure was further increased. This technically means that now a heavy Sword and Shield player can have even more aggressive approach towards anyone, and the damage, regardless of the heavy equip load, will still be extremely high. Fire Staff on the other hand was nerfed. Even with just a little bit on paper, the weapon was already lacking the necessary burst of damage on its own, especially when you fight against well-prepared heavy melees. Unless there was a good setup from your teammates in the front line, the staff was just scratching people, and by the time you pressure someone to lose 50% of their HP, they were already back to full by drinking a potion or a healer. But all that is now in the past. What has changed this season is the reason about this video and this build, as we received a new perk called Sundering Rend that will increase the attack power of anyone using it. How does that perk work actually? Well, it simply takes out 20% of your enemy's armor, and this basically comes after a couple of hits. Regardless if you do an auto attack or ability, you will basically apply a stack of 4% rend to a maximum of 5 stacks, which gives you the 20% at the end. For some people this might not seem much, but this is an extreme amount of boost when it comes to damage. But wait, this is not even all, because on top of those 20% rend, we can also add a bit more by using the old and well-known artifact Life Taker. The artifact's passive is applying a unique effect from the Void Gauntlet skill tree, which is called Disintegrate. This effect is technically reducing again the armor of the enemy, but this time the reduction is 10% for up to 30% as it stacks 3 times. Again, same as the perk, it can be applied by auto attacks and abilities. And additionally, the artifact allows this effect to be stacked from both weapons, and this technically means that you can only use your Fire Staff to basically apply both rends for a total of 50%. Now, surely you would think that this is all and there is nothing further than that, right? Well, not really, because there is even more. The Sundering Rend comes with separate perk bucket, which allows you to still pick your high damage perks from the previous seasons, which were Alacritus Punishment and Penetrating the Empower. To boost even further your damage, you have a couple of choices which you can use for the light equip load. For all of them, the perks are more or less the same, unless you want to experiment with something more specific and outside of the box. But before going with the perks, I will quickly mention that there is also a new gem that you can use on your weapon, and this is the Cut Pristine Turquoise. This one will provide you a 12% additional armor penetration, and even without the Rune Glass effect, which you cannot apply to the gem, you would still get extremely high value. My personal choice for the perks and the gear would be always Enchanted Ward, as it will have the highest value from all perks, followed up by the necessary weapon perks that you want to have, and of course if you have anything free, you can take conditionings. In case you have a piece that you don't really require a weapon perk for, I would even go with 2 conditioning types, as you can go with physical type, and let's say you can pick slash protection, and then you can go for one elemental one, which can be, for example, flame or void. Here is how I would build my overall best DPS with AoE focus fire staff setup. The mandatory perks for me would be the 5 enchanted wards, the 4 refreshing perks, and then the 3 weapon perks Fireball, Pillar of Fire and Meteor Shower. Of course, there are some other perks that you can see on your screen to complete the whole build. As you can tell, all of the items are quite specific and some of them might take you a little bit more time of farming. A good example can be the light chest piece, which can only be obtained from the Worm Raid. When we speak about jewelry, my go-to for the rings is the Elemental Band, even though I'm not using the Split Gem anymore. The ability to have Empower and Critical at the same time, it's something that I really highly value. For Amulet, I was running Stamina Recovery in the previous seasons, but now, after yet another nerf to the perk, I'm not so sure if it's still worth it. Additional good perks that can replace the Stamina Recovery would be Alacrity, as it will increase your haste duration and automatically will boost your passive 10% damage from the artifact Wind Leather Shoes, or you can go with Empowered, which will technically increase the duration of all Empower effects. The earring remains the same old one with Refreshing, Nimble and Empowering Toast. A nice and always good heart rune for this build is the Stormform, as you can always survive a little bit more with it. But if you really want to live on the edge and put even more damage and pressure to your enemies, Cannon Blast or Biobomb can be really good alternatives. I think that this is just about everything that I wanted to cover about this AoE DPS build with Fire Staff and Void Gauntlet for Season 8. I'm looking forward to see what you guys think about this one, and if you already gave it a shot, let me know in the comments what was the result. If you want to see more builds and other interesting info related to New World, make sure to subscribe to the channel and also join our Discord community. As always, thank you so much for watching and I will see you on the next one.